three folks who are military folks, who are brave, who are always fighting, who are fighting on behalf of this administration.
Let me start by saying that this woman is paid to deliver messages to the media. This is the entirety of her job. Over the weekend, 3 members of the American military were murdered, plus over 30 were injured in yet another terrorist attack funded by the Iranians over in the Middle East. And this has been going on since the middle of October. You ask any veteran or anyone in the military currently serving, I know I have over the last couple of months, and they've all said the same thing. This was bound to happen. It was only a matter of time. We knew this was going to happen because they keep attacking us, and we've done virtually nothing in response. Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary for the White House, appeared on MSNBC this morning, and when asked to address this, this is how she chose to deliver condolences on behalf of the White House. What you're about to see is so far the official statement from the Biden administration with regard to the deaths of these 3 service members.
What I will say, obviously our deepest condolences go out, and our heartfelt condolences go out to the families who lost three folks who are military folks, who are brave, who are always fighting, who are fighting on behalf of this administration, of the American people. Obviously, more importantly, we lost those souls.
Okay. We're going to watch this again together, and I'm going to stop it a couple of times to sort of emphasize how despicably disgusting this is. Let me start by saying that this woman is paid to deliver messages to the media. This is the entirety of her job. She has been hired, plucked out of obscurity, and paid handsomely to stand up in front of cameras for the entire world and speak on behalf of your government, on behalf of the Biden White House. And here we have the murder of 3 members of the American military, and this is the best she can muster? You and I, most of the people that you know in your life, we know somebody who is serving in the military right now, either a family member or a friend. Maybe it was a father or a mother or aunt and uncle, grandparent or something, but we've had some connection with the United States military and service. And over the last 20, 25 years, since September 11th, that means that we've probably been in contact directly, intimately, with somebody who has had devastation wrought upon them, either from, God forbid, a death in sacrifice for our nation, or maybe losing a limb, maybe a traumatic brain injury, some horrific instance. You are probably 1, 2, maximum 3 degrees of separation away from an individual who has gone through this horrific scenario in their life of someone serving, wearing the uniform, and having to deal with this trauma. And because of that, I've got to think, as emotional as it is, as horrible as it may be, when asked to speak about it, I think you could do better than Karine Jean-Pierre. Because in my heart of hearts, this video alone tells me that they are so disconnected from the American people on something so fundamental, something so real. The only thing Joe Biden can ever muster when he's trying to be compassionate and have empathy for other members of the military who have lost a loved one or Gold Star families is to talk about his own son, Beau, and lie and pretend as though his son died in Iraq, which he did not. This is the perfect example how the people who are running the White House are so completely removed from your everyday life. They know nothing about you, and they have nothing in common with you. And the utter disdain that emanates from this statement, because she can't muster any level of coherent sentiment on behalf of the families, on behalf of the White House, on behalf of the nation, at the one moment where that's all she's called to do. I mean, that's just my summary. Now let's break down the pieces.
Will say our deepest condolences go out, and our heartfelt condolences go out to the families who lost three brave
All right. So our deepest condolences. And then she had to go back and start again and say our heartfelt condolences, which tells me that she sort of vetted this language, asked a couple of people for advice. They decided to come up with some wording that they all agreed on, and she tried to memorize it. And then as she was halfway through that first sentence, she, oh, I forgot heartfelt. Let me go back and start again. And I'll say heartfelt condolences, right? And then she gets to the three individuals, three service members, three members of the military. If she knows, we still don't know what branch that they served in. I don't know if they're allowed to say yet. If they did, they could have said three soldiers, three sailors, three Marines, three airmen, what have you. But it shouldn't be that hard. And yet listen to how she struggles to put the words together here. And it's not because of grief. It's because she doesn't know how.
Who lost three folks who are military folks who are.
Seriously, I know it's pathetic, and I know that I'm sure in some other areas of the media she'll be teased and laughed at. I'm outraged by this. Imagine if these were your brothers who were killed, or your sons who were killed, or your dad or your husband who was killed. And this is what you get from the White House. But then the most atrocious, the most outrageous thing, as she just ventured in, and I'll go back a little bit, these three individuals. What were they there for?
Folks who are military folks who are brave, who are always fighting, who are fighting on behalf of this administration, of the
fighting on behalf of this administration. I mean, it makes me want to take a flamethrower to her office, rhetorically speaking. The fact that those words could even be formed in her mind and then articulated. Who would ever, you remember how, Trump is a dictator. Of course, that was after Bush was the dictator. During the war on terror, Bush was the dictator. Bush Cheney, Hitler, Bush Cheney fascist. Literally Hitler, we were told about them too. And they would never, ever articulate the idea that the members of our military are serving and putting their lives on the line on behalf of the president or the presidency or the administration. The fact that her brain could even allow her to articulate that idea is so completely outside the realm of what our country has ever stood for. Are you as angry about this as I am? This is not a gaffe. This is frankly a picture window into how these people think. And once again, I want to reiterate how disconnected they are from the lives that we live in this country, where this is something that we have had to deal with. And we have somehow figured out a way to find the words, to be respectful at a time like this.
The American people, obviously, more importantly, we lost those souls.
All right, that's enough. Although I do like the fact, God, let me just get that picture up there one more time. God was angry during this. Look at it. She begins her statement, and look how sunny and beautiful the lawn of the White House looks right behind her. And 25 seconds later, God was so pissed off that he smote a cloud in front of the sun and cast a dark shadow over the White House because this was so awful. 3 American service members lost their lives in an attack at the hands of a terrorist organization funded by the Iranians. Now, when Joe Biden came into the White House within 2 weeks of being sworn in, he made 2 executive decisions that were incredibly impactful that led us to this weekend. The first was to lift whatever sanctions he could lift against the regime in Iran. Now, some of them he couldn't lift, but what he did was he took the teeth out of them so that they wouldn't really be enforced. And he basically gave the green light for other countries to go ahead and do business with Iran. Under President Trump and led by Ambassador Rick Grenell in Germany, there was a full court pressure put on all nations in Europe to stop doing business from Iran, stop buying oil from Iran, stop buying gas from Iran, stop doing anything with Iran because you're funding terror. And the money that they will make off of you will end up killing your citizens, American citizens, and Israelis. How do we know that? Because whenever they get a chance, they tell us that that's what they want to do. And so the Trump administration put a halt to it. reversed the Iran nuclear deal, and stopped the flow of money to that regime. Joe Biden, within 2 weeks of entering the White House, reversed that policy and openly discussed trying to get back to the negotiating table with Iran about their nuclear capabilities. Billions and billions and billions of dollars later, we're where we are right now. There's another thing that the Biden administration did in their first 2 weeks, and that was start funding the government in Gaza. That would be Hamas, a terror organization, also funded by Iran. You see, during the Trump administration, they stopped the funding of Gaza. They put a freeze on it because they believed that that money was going to build tunnels and rockets and set up terrorist attacks against Israel. Biden lifts those sanctions, the money starts flowing to Hamas, and, well, 3 years later, here we are. Now, along the way, as terror groups funded by Iran have been wreaking havoc on the Middle East, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Anthony Blinken have been asked at various times, do you have a message for Iran? And let me show you, thanks to our friends over at the RNC, they put together a little montage so you can see exactly what the answer was. What's your message to Iran right now about terror activity?
What is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
It was very important to send a very clear message to anyone who might seek to take advantage of the conflict in Gaza to threaten our personnel here or anywhere else in the region. Don't do it.
They did it, and they've been doing it. Upwards to 30 to 40 attacks on American interests, American personnel, American bases, American consulates, American ships since the middle of October. They continued to do it, and we had virtually no response. And that led to this latest attack over the weekend. 3 American service members dead, over 30 American service members injured, some of them in a devastating way. Just 10 days ago, Joe Biden was asked by a pool reporter specifically this same question about Iran and about these ongoing attacks on American personnel. This was about 10 days ago. This is when he was doing that photo op where he wanted a smoothie and he was complaining that it cost so much. And someone had to remind him, well, it didn't cost this much 3 years ago. And this was his response when he was asked about Iran.
I've already delivered the message to Iran. They know not to do anything.
Hang on 1 second. Can you continue bombing the Houthis if the attacks don't stop, sir?
Say that again?
Continue bombing the Houthis if the attacks don't stop. Will you continue with the strikes, sir?
We will make sure that we respond to the Houthis if they continue this outrageous behavior, along with our allies.
Kind of mixed messages there. The first is they already know not to do anything. And then when asked, well, they have done something, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to respond. Did you notice the manner in which he delivered that message? Really strong, really forthright, really sends a shiver of fear down the spine of any Islamic radical terrorist in the Middle East that might want to do harm to American interests, right? Boy, real strength. This White House is all about strength. But again, I want to point out that was just 10 days ago. And since then, Iran has done various attacks, including the one this weekend. This is a weak president. And when there's weakness on the international stage, well, somebody's going to fill that void. And it's being filled right now by the incredibly strong terrorists. They're not strong in terms of their character. They're not strong in terms of their principles or their morals, but they're strong in terms of the weapons they have at their disposal and the fact that they use them without any regard. Because who's going to do anything? Certainly not the United States of America. Joe Biden yesterday was at a campaign stop in South Carolina because, he's running for president. And at the end of the campaign, after everything else was said, after all the politics was done, after all the race baiting was done, after all of the unfounded attacks on you, conservative voters, because you dare to vote for a man that Joe Biden thinks is a meanie, he then finally addressed the death of these American service members.
One last thing. I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yeah.
And I've asked you for a moment of silence with all three of those falls, so and we shall respond. God bless you all. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I wish we didn't have to go.
I'm not sure why he's making jokes at the end of that, and I'm not going to stand in the way of the commander-in-chief asking for a moment of silence, although I would have preferred him to ask for prayers as well. But generally speaking, that sort of thing is said and done before the politicking takes place, not after. But can we watch this one more time? And I just want to once again emphasize the words that I've used here: strength and weakness. If you had to choose which word to describe the statement that the President of the United States made with regard to the death of 3 members of the military who serve at his command, who died because of his policies, you think this is a strong message, or do you think it's kind of weak?
One last thing. I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
We had a tough day last night. And now let me slur my speech and mutter my way through this, because I got to say it. It's obligatory. And then we'll move on and we'll have some chicken. God, we deserve better. This country deserves better. Honestly, at this point, the world deserves better.